Picture this. You just got your first real paycheck. Maybe it's from a part-time job. Maybe it's your first full-time position. Doesn't matter. The point is, it's sitting right there in your banking app, glowing on your screen. More money than you've had in one place probably ever. And for about 10 beautiful, glorious seconds, you feel unstoppable. Then, your phone buzzes. A notification. Your favorite brand just dropped a limited edition something. Your group chat is absolutely losing it. 3 friends have already tagged you. And somewhere between the buzz and the tap and the "Are you sure you want to complete this purchase?" the money is gone. Sound familiar? Be honest. If it does, and for most of us, some version of that story is embarrassingly relatable, I want you to know something important before we go any further. That's not a character flaw. It's not laziness. It's not irresponsibility. It's what happens when you grow up in a world that teaches you how to spend, but almost never teaches you how to manage. Think about the education most of us received. We learned how to calculate the area of a trapezoid. We read The Great Gatsby. We memorized the periodic table. We did science fairs and book reports and history projects. And yet, nobody ever sat us down and taught us what a credit score is, how compound interest works, why an emergency fund matters, or how to tell the difference between a good debt and a bad one. That's the gap that Roshel Waite decided to fill. Her book, Money Skills for Young Adults in a Digital Age, is one of the most practical and readable personal finance guides written specifically for people stepping into financial independence in a world that is, let's be real, very different from the one previous generations navigated. The apps, the digital payments, the gig economy, the buy now, pay later schemes, the constant connection to advertising, all of it has changed the game. And Waite meets you exactly where you are. Today, we're going to spend about an hour together walking through the core ideas of this book. I'm going to summarize, translate, add some metaphors, and bring it to life as if we're having a real conversation, not a lecture. By the end, you'll have a solid foundation, a mental framework, and hopefully a couple of things you can actually do differently starting today. So, get comfortable. Here we go. Why nobody prepared you for this. Let's start at the beginning. And the beginning, for most of us, is a quiet but enormous problem. We call it the financial literacy gap. It's the distance between what people need to know to navigate money well and what they were actually taught. And for the current generation of young adults, that gap is wide. Waite opens the book by acknowledging this directly, without sugarcoating it. She's not trying to make you feel bad. She's trying to help you understand why so many smart, capable people find themselves confused, stressed, or stuck when it comes to money. It's not because money is hard. It's because no one gave them the map. Here's a telling detail she raises. Financial literacy education, when it exists at all in schools, is often a single semester, usually buried in a broader life skills or economics class, and rarely given the weight of core subjects. Meanwhile, the financial decisions young adults face are anything but light. Student loans, first apartments, credit cards, health insurance, retirement accounts, tax filings. These are major decisions with consequences that ripple across decades. And we're expected to handle them cold. Now, it's tempting to blame yourself, to say, I should have figured this out by now. But self-blame is not a strategy. And here's the thing about knowledge. It doesn't care how old you are when you learn it. The brain doesn't close at 25. The moment you decide to engage with financial education, you begin to benefit from it every single day. Think of it like this. Imagine you show up to a chess tournament, but you've never been told the rules. You lose, badly. Is that because you're bad at chess? No, it's because nobody told you how the pieces move. Once you know the rules, the game completely changes. That's what this book is, the rules, explained clearly, in plain language, for a world that previous rule books weren't written for. Waite also spends some time in this opening section addressing something subtle but important, the shame around money.
Many people feel embarrassed about not knowing financial basics. They're afraid to ask questions because they think everyone else has it figured out. They watch friends or social media acquaintances appear to be thriving financially and assume they must be missing something fundamental about themselves. But here's the truth. Most of those people are winging it too. The appearance of financial confidence and actual financial literacy are two very different things. One of the most liberating things you can do is simply admit, I don't fully understand how money works yet, and I'm going to learn. That openness is the starting line, and you're already there.
All right, now we're getting into the practical heart of the book. Let's talk about budgeting, and let's start by dealing with the reason most people don't do it. Budgeting feels like punishment. It feels like telling yourself no, like drawing a tight little box around your life and staying inside it. Nobody wants to feel restricted, especially not in your 20s when the whole point is that the world is opening up. But Roshel Waite reframes this completely, and once you hear her framing, the old way of thinking about budgets doesn't quite fit anymore. A budget, she says, is not a set of restrictions, it's a set of intentions. It's you sitting down with your money and telling it what to do, rather than wondering later where it went. Think about it this way. Imagine you hire a new assistant. You don't just hand them your phone and your calendar and say, figure it out. You tell them, here's what I need done, here are my priorities, here's how to handle different situations. A budget is the same thing. It's instructions to your money. This much goes here, this much goes there, and this much is yours to enjoy freely. When you have that structure, you're not restricted, you're liberated, because you know in real time what you can spend without consequences. You don't have to guess. You don't have to feel guilty every time you treat yourself because you've already allocated money for exactly that. Let's go deeper on the 50-30-20 rule because Waite treats it as a foundational starting framework. Take whatever you bring home after taxes, your actual take-home pay, not your gross salary. Now divide it into 3 buckets. Bucket 1, needs, 50%. These are your non-negotiables: rent or mortgage, groceries, utility bills, transportation, your bus pass, your car payment, your gas, health insurance if you pay for it yourself, phone bill, minimum debt payments. Basically, everything that keeps you alive, housed, and functional. That's your needs bucket. Bucket 2, wants, 30%. This is your quality of life spending. Dining out, entertainment, concerts, movies, games, streaming services, new clothes beyond what's strictly necessary, hobbies, travel. The things that make life enjoyable rather than just survivable. Notice that Waite doesn't eliminate this category. She builds it in. A budget without any room for enjoyment is a budget you won't follow. 20% is savings and debt repayment. This is your future self's money. Emergency fund contributions, retirement account deposits, extra debt payments beyond the minimums, investment contributions. This is the bucket that most people skip or defer to someday when I have more. But this bucket is the one that builds actual financial security. 20% might feel like a lot right now. Start with what you can. 5% is better than 0. 10 is better than 5. Build the habit first. Scale the amount as your income grows. Now, Waite is quick to acknowledge that for people early in their careers or living in high cost of living cities, the 50-30-20 rule may not be immediately realistic. Rent alone might eat 60% of your income. That's okay. The framework is a direction, not a requirement. The principle, separate your money into categories, give each category limits, and prioritize your future self, applies at every income level. She also walks through something she calls the values-aligned budget. The idea here is that your spending categories should reflect what you actually care about, not what you think you should care about. For example, if you genuinely love live music and it brings you deep joy, budgeting for concerts isn't frivolous, it's aligned with your values. On the other hand, if you're spending $100 a month on clothing because it feels expected, but you don't actually care that much about fashion, that's money not aligned with your values. It's just money spent out of habit or social pressure.
When you audit your spending through this lens, does this expense reflect what I genuinely value? You often find surprising places where money is leaking without purpose. And redirecting even a little bit of that leak towards savings or towards things you truly care about changes how you feel about money overall. One more practical tool from this section, the money check-in. Once a week, carve out 10 minutes, just 10, to look at your numbers. How much came in? How much went out? How does that compare to your categories? This isn't about beating yourself up if you overspent. It's about staying in touch with reality. Think of it the way you'd check in on your health, stepping on the scale, taking your temperature. Information isn't judgment, it's just information. Most people who say, "I don't know where my money goes," have simply stopped looking. The fix is to look.
You are not stuck at this number. Before we can talk about building wealth, we have to talk about what you're building with. Your income, what comes in. Waite is very deliberate about reframing how young people think about income, because most people treat their current income as a fixed fact about themselves, as if whatever they're earning right now is simply what they're worth, and there's not much to be done about it. That couldn't be further from the truth. Your income is not fixed. It's a number that can be grown, diversified, and eventually transformed through skills, positioning, negotiation, side income, and time. Let's break down the types of income she covers. Active income is the most familiar. You show up, you work, you get paid. Whether you're working part-time in retail, freelancing as a graphic designer, or employed full-time in an office, that's active income. It's trading your time for money. It requires your ongoing presence. Passive income is income that continues flowing after you've done the initial work. A YouTube channel with a back catalog of videos that keeps getting views, an online course you recorded, a book you wrote, a rental property, dividend-paying investments. The upfront effort can be significant, but once it's built, it keeps producing without constant input. Portfolio income comes from investments, dividends, interest, capital gains. It's the return your money earns just by being put to work in the right places. Most people starting out have only active income. That's completely normal, but Waite encourages readers to think about the other categories as long-term goals, not distant fantasies. She spends particular time on the gig and freelance economy, which has genuinely transformed what income looks like for young adults. Platforms now exist for almost every skill imaginable: writing, editing, design, photography, video editing, social media management, virtual assistants, coding, translation, tutoring, music production, voice acting. The list is genuinely endless. And the digital nature of this work means you can earn from anywhere, at any time, often on your own schedule. Waite's advice for getting started in freelancing is practical and unglamorous. Start by doing the thing you already know how to do for a price lower than you'd ultimately like in order to build a portfolio and testimonials. Then raise your rates as your reputation grows. Don't wait until you feel ready. Nobody ever feels fully ready. Start anyway. She also talks about the importance of negotiating your income, a skill most people avoid because it feels awkward or risky. But data consistently shows that most employers expect negotiation, and that candidates who don't negotiate often leave significant money on the table. If you're offered a salary, you can ask for more, politely, professionally, with reasoning. The worst that happens is they say no, and often they say yes. One of the most powerful ideas in this section is what Waite calls the skills gap awareness. Look at what the market is currently paying for different skills. Look at what skills are in demand. And then look honestly at what skills you currently have. Is there a gap? Great, because gaps can be filled. Online courses, certifications, self-study, mentorships, the resources to build almost any skill now exist at low or no cost. The income you can earn is, in large part, a function of the value you can deliver, and value can be developed. She ends this section with a line worth repeating. Your earning potential is not a ceiling, it's a floor that you can raise. You don't save what's left. You spend what's left after saving. Here's one of the most transformative ideas in the entire book, and it fits in a single sentence. Don't save what's left after spending. Spend what's left after saving. Read that again, or rather, hear it again. Most people treat saving as an afterthought. They spend throughout the month, and if there's anything left, they save it. But because spending tends to expand to fill available money, a phenomenon economists call lifestyle creep, there's often nothing left, month after month, year after year. Waite flips this completely. She advocates for what's called paying yourself first. Before you pay rent, before you buy groceries, before you do anything else, a percentage of your income goes directly into savings, automatically, without you having to decide. This is not discipline. Discipline fails. This is automation. Setting up a standing transfer from your checking account to your savings account on payday, so the money moves before you see it, before you're tempted by it, before it becomes part of the mental budget you're working with. Most banks allow you to set this up in minutes, and once it's running, most people adjust to their reduced spendable balance within a month or two. The absence of that money becomes normal. You simply live on what remains. Now, let's talk about compound interest, because Waite dedicates significant space to this, and for good reason. This concept might be the single most important financial idea you could understand. Here's how it works. You save $1,000. It earns 5% interest in a year. Now you have $1,050. Next year, that entire $1,050 earns 5%, not just the original $1,000. So you earn $52.50 instead of $50. The year after that, you earn even more, and so on and so on. The interest earns interest. The growth compounds, and over long periods of time, this creates results that feel almost magical. Here's an example that Waite uses to illustrate the power of starting early. Imagine two people. Let's call them Maya and Jordan. Maya starts saving at 22. She puts away $200 a month into an investment account, earning an average of 7% per year. She does this for 13 years until she's 35. Then she stops completely and doesn't add another cent. Jordan doesn't start until 35, but he saves $200 a month for the next 30 years, all the way until age 65. Maya saved for only 13 years. Jordan saved for 30. And yet, because of compound interest and because Maya's money had more time to grow, Maya ends up with more money at 65 than Jordan does. Let that sit with you. Time isn't just helpful in saving, it's the main ingredient. And the younger you are right now, the more of it you have. That's an extraordinary asset, one that's easy to take for granted and that you can never buy back once it's spent. Now, Waite also makes a critical distinction between different kinds of savings, because savings isn't just one thing. Emergency fund. This is your first savings priority. 3 to 6 months of essential expenses sitting in a high-yield savings account where you can access it quickly if you need it. This isn't for travel or fun. It's for the moments life ambushes you. A sudden job loss, a car breakdown, a health expense. Without an emergency fund, these moments become debt. With one, they become inconveniences. Short-term savings. Money you're setting aside for something specific in the next 1 to 3 years. A trip, a new laptop, a down payment. This stays in savings, not investments, because you'll need it too soon to risk market fluctuations. Long-term savings and investments. Money you won't touch for 5, 10, 20, or 30 years. This is where compound interest works its most dramatic magic. This money can be invested in ways that grow significantly over time. She also talks about the savings rate, what percentage of your income you save, as one of the most important numbers in personal finance, even more important than how much you earn, because a high earner who saves nothing builds nothing. A modest earner who consistently saves 10 or 20% builds real wealth over time. The goal is to gradually increase your savings rate as your income grows. Every raise, every side income addition, before you adjust your lifestyle to absorb it, divert a portion of it into savings. This is how lifestyle creep becomes wealth creation instead. Let's talk about credit scores, because chances are yours is already being shaped even if you've never applied for a loan or a credit card. Your credit score is a three-digit number, typically ranging from 300 to 850, that serves as your financial reputation. It tells lenders how reliable is this person with borrowed money, and it affects more of your life than you might expect. It influences whether you can rent an apartment, whether you qualify for a car loan, the interest rate you get on that loan, which can mean the difference of thousands of dollars over the life of the loan. It affects your ability to get a mortgage someday. Some employers check it during hiring. Some utility companies use it to determine your deposit requirements. In short, it matters, and the best time to start building it well is now. Waite breaks down the components of a credit score with real clarity. Payment history is the single biggest factor, about 35% of your score. Do you pay your bills on time? Every time. Even one payment that's 30 or more days late can dent your score noticeably. The system rewards consistency above almost everything else. Pay on time, every time. Set automatic minimum payments as a safety net. Credit utilization is the second most important factor, about 30%. This is the ratio of how much credit you're using versus how much you have available. If your credit card has a $2,000 limit and you're carrying a $1,500 balance, your utilization is 75%, which looks risky to lenders. The guideline is to keep utilization below 30%. Lower is better. Ideal is under 10%. Length of credit history, about 15%. How long have your accounts been open? Older accounts in good standing help your score. This is one reason why you shouldn't casually close old credit cards, even ones you rarely use, without understanding the impact. Credit mix, about 10%. Having different types of credit, a credit card, an auto loan, a student loan, can slightly boost your score. You don't need to take on debt just for this benefit, but understanding why the mix matters is useful. New credit inquiries, about 10%. Every time you apply for new credit, a hard inquiry hits your report and can temporarily lower your score. Applying for multiple credit cards or loans in a short window looks desperate to lenders. Space things out. Now, building credit from scratch, which is where many young people start, can feel like a frustrating catch-22. You need credit to get credit. But Waite outlines several clear entry points. Secured credit cards are probably the most accessible. You put down a deposit, typically $200 to $500, which becomes your credit limit. You use the card for small purchases. You pay it off in full every month. After 6 to 12 months of responsible use, your credit score starts climbing, and many issuers will convert your card to a traditional unsecured card and return your deposit. Becoming an authorized user on a trusted family member's credit card without necessarily using the card yourself can also help you piggyback on their history and start building your own. Credit builder loans offered by some credit unions are another option. You make payments on a small loan and the money is released to you at the end. It's designed specifically to help people establish credit history. Whatever path you take, the core principle is the same. Use credit regularly in small amounts, pay it off in full and on time, and give it time to work. Waite is also very direct about something many young people discover the hard way. Credit card interest is brutal. Annual percentage rates, APRs, on most credit cards range from 18 to 28% or higher. If you carry a balance month to month, that interest compounds fast. A $500 balance at 22% APR with only minimum payments can take years to pay off and cost you far more than the original amount. Her rule: treat your credit card like a debit card. Only charge what you already have in your bank account. Pay the full statement balance when the bill arrives. You get the credit score benefit, any rewards or cash back the card offers, and you pay zero interest. Used this way, a credit card is actually a useful tool. Used carelessly, it's an expensive trap.
Debt is one of those topics that people have very strong feelings about. Some treat it as categorically shameful. Others treat all debt as normal and unavoidable. Waite takes a more nuanced and more useful view. Not all debt is the same, and understanding the difference is important. Productive debt is borrowing that helps you build something of lasting value. A student loan that funds education leading to meaningfully higher earning power. A mortgage that lets you purchase a home that appreciates. A small business loan that funds a venture that generates income. These forms of debt can be worth taking on if the terms are reasonable and the expected return exceeds the cost. Unproductive debt is borrowing that funds consumption. A credit card balance for clothes you've already worn out. A personal loan taken to fund a vacation. Payday loans to cover spending shortfalls. Buy now, pay later schemes stacked on top of each other until the combined payments are suffocating. These forms of debt generate no lasting value and often carry high interest rates that make them very expensive to carry. In the digital age, unproductive debt has become easier to accumulate than ever. The rise of buy now, pay later services, which let you split purchases into 4 installments with no interest or deferred interest, sounds innocent. And for a single planned purchase, it can be fine. But Waite points out the danger. It creates hidden obligations that don't feel like real debt in the moment. If you have 5 different buy now, pay later plans running simultaneously, each for $50 or $80 or $100, you've committed hundreds of dollars of future income without it registering as debt in your mind, the way a credit card balance might. By the time the installments all land, your month can be devastatingly tight. Awareness is the first defense. When it comes to actually dealing with existing debt, Waite lays out 2 well-established strategies. The avalanche method. List all your debts by interest rate, highest to lowest. Throw every extra dollar you can at the highest rate debt while making minimum payments on everything else. When that debt is gone, roll its payment into attacking the next highest. Mathematically, this is the most efficient approach. It minimizes the total interest you pay. The snowball method. List your debts by balance, smallest to largest. Attack the smallest balance first with all available extra money, regardless of interest rate. Cross it off the list, then move to the next. The psychological wins from eliminating individual debts keep you motivated and make the process feel less overwhelming. Neither method is objectively better. The avalanche saves more money. The snowball maintains more momentum. Waite suggests choosing whichever approach you'll actually stick to, because a debt payoff plan you abandon helps no one. She also introduces the idea of debt consolidation, combining multiple high-interest debts into a single lower-interest loan as a tool worth understanding with appropriate caution. Done right, it simplifies repayment and reduces interest costs. Done wrong, or used as an excuse to accumulate new debt on the cards you've just paid off, it makes things worse. And she addresses student loans specifically because they are the most common debt among her readers. Student loan debt is a complex topic, and Waite doesn't oversimplify it. What she does emphasize, understand your loans completely. Know your servicer, know your interest rate, know your repayment options, income-driven repayment plans, refinancing considerations, forgiveness programs if applicable. Loans left unexamined are loans that grow quietly in the background. The broader message on debt is this: carrying it is expensive, clearing it creates freedom, and the path from one to the other is always a plan executed consistently. There's no shortcut, but there's also no debt outside of extreme circumstances that can't be addressed and eventually defeated. This section might be the one with the highest potential life impact, and it's also the one most young people put off the longest: investing. Here's the usual internal dialogue. I'll start investing when I have more money, when things settle down, when I understand it better, when the market looks more stable. Waite's response to all of that is gentle but firm. Every day you wait is a day of compound growth you don't get back. Let's demystify the basics. What is investing, actually? At its simplest, investing means putting your money into something that has a reasonable chance of growing over time. You're not keeping it in a savings account earning a fraction of a percent. You're putting it to work,
in businesses, in bonds, in funds, where it can participate in economic growth. Stocks represent tiny ownership stakes in companies. When Apple or Toyota or any publicly traded company does well, the value of those shares tends to rise. When they struggle, shares may fall. Individual stocks can be volatile. They go up and down, sometimes dramatically. But over decades, the overall stock market has historically trended upward. Bonds are essentially loans you give to governments or corporations. In return, they pay you interest on a regular schedule and return your principal at the end of the term. They're generally lower risk and lower return than stocks. Index funds and ETFs, exchange-traded funds, are Waite's recommended starting point for most young investors and many experienced ones. Rather than picking individual stocks, an index fund buys a small piece of every company in the index, like the S&P 500, which tracks the 500 largest U.S. companies. Your investment is automatically diversified. When the market grows, you grow with it. When it dips, it hurts less than if you were concentrated in a single company. The strategy Waite advocates is sometimes called passive investing. Buy a diversified index fund regularly, regardless of market conditions, and hold it for the long term. Don't try to time the market. Don't try to pick winning stocks. Just buy consistently and wait. This approach has outperformed the majority of actively managed investment funds over long periods. It's not exciting. It's not the kind of thing that makes for dramatic stories, but it works. She covers tax-advantaged accounts next, and these are genuinely worth paying attention to. A 401k, if you're in the U.S., is an employer-sponsored retirement account. Contributions come out of your paycheck before taxes, which reduces your taxable income right now. Many employers offer a match. They'll contribute 50 cents or $1 for every dollar you put in, up to a certain percentage. If your employer offers a match and you're not contributing enough to capture it, you are leaving part of your compensation on the table. That's free money with an immediate 100% return. It doesn't get better than that. A Roth IRA is an individual retirement account where you contribute after-tax money, meaning there's no tax break now, but your money grows tax-free and withdrawals in retirement are completely tax-free. For young people in lower tax brackets, now but likely higher brackets later, the Roth is often a powerful choice. Other countries have equivalent structures: ISAs in the UK, TFSA in Canada, superannuation in Australia, and the principle is the same. Using tax-advantaged accounts when available accelerates your wealth building meaningfully. Waite acknowledges market volatility directly and honestly. Markets go down, sometimes sharply, sometimes for extended periods. This is a fact, not a flaw. The investors who get hurt most badly by downturns are those who panic, sell at the bottom, and lock in their losses. The investors who do best are those who stay the course, or better yet, keep buying during downturns when prices are lower. Think of it like a store you love having a sale. When your favorite things are marked down, you don't stop shopping there. You buy more. The market works the same way. Drops are discounts for long-term investors. Her recommended starting sequence is clear and repeatable. Build your emergency fund first. Tackle high-interest debt. Then contribute enough to your employer retirement plan to capture any matching. Then open a Roth or equivalent. Then, with any remaining capacity, invest in a simple index fund consistently. You don't need to understand everything. You need to understand enough to start, and then stay consistent.
Let's talk about taxes, because for a lot of young people, the first time they encounter the full complexity of taxes, it arrives as a surprise. And surprises in finance are almost always expensive. Waite dedicates a section to this specifically because the digital economy has created a new class of earner, the freelancer, the content creator, the gig worker, for whom taxes are more complicated than the traditional employee experience. If you work a regular job as an employee, your employer typically withholds taxes from your paycheck automatically. You see your net pay, not your gross.
At year-end, you file your taxes, often get a refund, and the process feels relatively manageable. But if you do any kind of freelance, contract, or self-employed work, taxes work very differently. Nobody withholds anything. You receive your full payment, and then, if you haven't been saving for it, the tax bill at year-end can be genuinely shocking. Waite's core advice for self-employed earners: set aside a percentage of every payment you receive for taxes. A common rule of thumb is 25 to 30%, depending on your tax bracket and country. Open a separate savings account specifically for this. Every time a payment arrives, move that percentage out of your spending account immediately. Don't touch it. When tax time comes, you may not owe the full amount. There are deductions for business expenses, home office use, equipment, professional development, but having the money set aside means you're never caught off guard. She also discusses the basics of tax deductions, legal ways to reduce your taxable income. If you're self-employed, reasonable business expenses can often be deducted: software you use for work, a portion of your internet bill, professional subscriptions, travel for work purposes. This isn't a loophole, it's the system working as intended, recognizing that earning money costs money and only taxing profit. Understanding the basics of the tax system you operate in isn't about becoming an accountant. It's about not being blindsided. And once you understand the landscape, you can plan around it intelligently.
That's the part nobody says out loud. Here's a section that sets this book apart from a lot of personal finance writing. Because most personal finance books are primarily about the numbers, the strategies, the percentages and the accounts and the frameworks. And Roshel Waite covers all of that. But she also understands something that's easy to overlook. Money is not just math. Money is psychology. Money is emotion. Money is identity and fear and self-worth and family history and social belonging. If you don't understand that layer, the math won't fully work, because you can know all the right strategies and still not follow them if your emotional relationship with money is working against you. Let's go through the key emotional dynamics she explores. Money anxiety. This is the feeling, familiar to many people, of a kind of low-grade dread around financial topics. The knot in your stomach when you know you should check your bank account, but you don't. The way a large purchase hangs in the back of your mind for days. The avoidance of financial conversations, financial documents, even thinking about money. Avoidance is one of the most common responses to financial anxiety, and it's understandable. If looking at something makes you feel bad, it's natural to stop looking. But avoidance is the thing that makes financial situations worse. Problems that aren't faced grow. Bills that aren't opened still accumulate. Debts that aren't acknowledged still charge interest. Waite's approach to money anxiety is compassionate but direct. The antidote is engagement. Small, regular, gentle engagement. 5 minutes a week looking at your numbers, not to judge yourself, but just to know. The more familiar your financial reality becomes, the less power it has to frighten you. Monsters are scariest in the dark. Emotional spending. Retail therapy is real. When people feel stressed, sad, bored, or emotionally depleted, spending can provide a genuine, if temporary, lift. There's a small dopamine hit in the act of buying something new. And in a world where purchasing is one tap away, it's very easy for emotional spending to become a default coping mechanism. The problem isn't the occasional treat. The problem is when spending becomes the primary tool for managing difficult emotions, because the relief is short and the financial consequence lingers, which creates more stress, which triggers more spending. The cycle is real, and recognizing it is the first step to breaking it. Waite suggests building alternative pleasure rituals, low-cost or free activities that provide genuine comfort: a long walk, calling a friend, cooking something you love, moving your body, creating something. These don't replace emotional support, but they can interrupt the spending as coping loop. Social comparison and lifestyle inflation. You've heard the phrase, keeping up with the Joneses. The digital version of this is constant, immediate, and curated. When you scroll through social media, you're not seeing average life. You're seeing peak moments, travel highlights, new purchases, milestone celebrations, carefully filtered snapshots of other people's lives at their best. And this creates a kind of invisible pressure, a sense that other people are living at a certain level, and you should be too. That spending on a certain experience or item will get you to where you should be. Waite calls this aspirational spending, spending to close the gap between your current self and the idealized version of your life that you see reflected in others. And it's one of the most powerful drivers of financial decisions in the social media era. The remedy isn't to stop dreaming or to live in austerity. It's to get very clear on your own values, what you genuinely want your life to look like, not what you've absorbed from your feed. When you're anchored in your own vision, the noise of comparison gets quieter. Money and relationships. This might be the most practical subtopic in the emotional wellness section. Money is one of the leading sources of conflict in close relationships, romantic partnerships, friendships, family dynamics. Waite covers a few specific scenarios. Lending money to friends or family is one. Her advice is never lend what you can't afford to give. In other words, if the money doesn't come back, will your relationship and your finances both survive? If the answer is yes, you can consider it. If no, it's okay to say no. She also covers navigating financial differences in romantic relationships. When two people have very different spending habits, different financial histories, different attitudes toward money, and they're building a life together, those differences need to be explicitly discussed, not assumed, not avoided, discussed. What are each person's financial goals? What does shared spending look like? How are bills divided? These aren't unromantic questions. They're the infrastructure of a sustainable partnership. Scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. Waite closes this section with one of the most important mindset shifts in the book. A scarcity mindset says, there's never enough. I'll always struggle. Money is dangerous. I don't deserve financial security. Or on the other end, money is running out, so I need to spend it before something bad happens. Abundance mindset doesn't mean pretending you have more than you do. It means believing, I am capable of learning. I can improve my financial situation. Good decisions compound over time. More is possible. The mindset shift isn't instant, it's gradual, but it changes what actions you take, what opportunities you notice, and what you believe you deserve. And that changes everything.
Let's talk about taxes. Because for a lot of young people, the first time they encounter the full complexity of taxes, it arrives as a surprise. And surprises in finance are almost always expensive. Waite dedicates a section to this specifically because the digital economy has created a new class of earner, the freelancer, the content creator, the gig worker, for whom taxes are more complicated than the traditional employee experience. If you work a regular job as an employee, your employer typically withholds taxes from your paycheck automatically. You see your net pay, not your gross. At year-end, you file your taxes, often get a refund, and the process feels relatively manageable. But if you do any kind of freelance, contract, or self-employed work, taxes work very differently. Nobody withholds anything. You receive your full payment. And then, if you haven't been saving for it, the tax bill at year-end can be genuinely shocking. Waite's core advice for self-employed earners: set aside a percentage of every payment you receive for taxes. A common rule of thumb is 25 to 30%, depending on your tax bracket and country. Open a separate savings account specifically for this. Every time a payment arrives, move that percentage out of your spending account immediately. Don't touch it. When tax time comes, you may not owe the full amount. There are deductions for business expenses, home office use, equipment, professional development, but having the money set aside means you're never caught off guard. She also discusses the basics of tax deductions, legal ways to reduce your taxable income. If you're self-employed, reasonable business expenses can often be deducted. Software you use for work, a portion of your internet bill, professional subscriptions, travel for work purposes. This isn't a loophole. It's the system working as intended, recognizing that earning money costs money and only taxing profit.
Understanding the basics of the tax system you operate in isn't about becoming an accountant. It's about not being blindsided. And once you understand the landscape, you can plan around it intelligently. Money is emotional. That's the part nobody says out loud. Here's a section that sets this book apart from a lot of personal finance writing. Because most personal finance books are primarily about the numbers, the strategies, the percentages, and the accounts, and the frameworks. And Roshel Waite covers all of that, but she also understands something that's easy to overlook. Money is not just math. Money is psychology. Money is emotion. Money is identity and fear and self-worth and family history and social belonging. If you don't understand that layer, the math won't fully work, because you can know all the right strategies and still not follow them if your emotional relationship with money is working against you. Let's go through the key emotional dynamics she explores. Money anxiety. This is the feeling familiar to many people of a kind of low-grade dread around financial topics. The knot in your stomach when you know you should check your bank account, but you don't. The way a large purchase hangs in the back of your mind for days. The avoidance of financial conversations, financial documents, even thinking about money. Avoidance is one of the most common responses to financial anxiety, and it's understandable. If looking at something makes you feel bad, it's natural to stop looking. But avoidance is the thing that makes financial situations worse. Problems that aren't faced grow. Bills that aren't opened still accumulate. Debts that aren't acknowledged still charge interest. Waite's approach to money anxiety is compassionate but direct. The antidote is engagement. Small, regular, gentle engagement. 5 minutes a week looking at your numbers, not to judge yourself, but just to know. The more familiar your financial reality becomes, the less power it has to frighten you. Monsters are scariest in the dark. Emotional spending. Retail therapy is real. When people feel stressed, sad, bored, or emotionally depleted, spending can provide a genuine, if temporary, lift. There's a small dopamine hit in the act of buying something new. And in a world where purchasing is one tap away, it's very easy for emotional spending to become a default coping mechanism. The problem isn't the occasional treat. The problem is when spending becomes the primary tool for managing difficult emotions, because the relief is short and the financial consequence lingers, which creates more stress, which triggers more spending. The cycle is real, and recognizing it is the first step to breaking it. Waite suggests building alternative pleasure rituals, low-cost or free activities that provide genuine comfort. A long walk, calling a friend, cooking something you love, moving your body, creating something. These don't replace emotional support, but they can interrupt the spending as coping loop. Social comparison and lifestyle inflation. You've heard the phrase keeping up with the Joneses. The digital version of this is constant, immediate, and curated. When you scroll through social media, you're not seeing average life. You're seeing peak moments. Travel highlights, new purchases, milestone celebrations, carefully filtered snapshots of other people's lives at their best. And this creates a kind of invisible pressure, a sense that other people are living at a certain level and you should be too. That spending on a certain experience or item will get you to where you should be. Waite calls this aspirational spending. Spending to close the gap between your current self and the idealized version of your life that you see reflected in others. And it's one of the most powerful drivers of financial decisions in the social media era. The remedy isn't to stop dreaming or to live in austerity. It's to get very clear on your own values, what you genuinely want your life to look like, not what you've absorbed from your feed. When you're anchored in your own vision, the noise of comparison gets quieter. Money and relationships. This might be the most practical subtopic in the emotional wellness section. Money is one of the leading sources of conflict in close relationships, romantic partnerships, friendships, family dynamics. Waite covers a few specific scenarios. Lending money to friends or family is one. Her advice: Never lend what you can't afford to give. In other words, if the money doesn't come back, will your relationship and your finances both survive? If the answer is yes, you can consider it. If no, it's okay to say no. She also covers navigating financial differences in romantic relationships. When two people have very different spending habits, different financial histories, different attitudes towards money, and they're building a life together, those differences need to be explicitly discussed. Not assumed, not avoided, discussed. What are each person's financial goals? What does shared spending look like? How are bills divided? These aren't unromantic questions. They're the infrastructure of a sustainable partnership. Scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. Waite closes this section with one of the most important mindset shifts in the book. A scarcity mindset says there's never enough, I'll always struggle, money is dangerous, I don't deserve financial security, or on the other end, money is running out so I need to spend it before something bad happens. An abundance mindset doesn't mean pretending you have more than you do. It means believing I am capable of learning. I can improve my financial situation. Good decisions compound over time. More is possible. The mindset shift isn't instant, it's gradual, but it changes what actions you take, what opportunities you notice, and what you believe you deserve. And that changes everything.
We live so much of our financial lives on our phones and computers, and that's not going away. So this section is about using that digital environment to your advantage while protecting yourself from its risks. Waite walks through 3 categories: budgeting and tracking apps. These are tools that connect to your bank accounts and credit cards, pull your transaction data, and automatically categorize your spending. They turn your financial life into a dashboard, showing you visually what's coming in, what's going out, and how your spending breaks down. For many people, seeing their spending categorized for the first time is genuinely eye-opening. You might think you spend about $100 a month on food. The data might show $240. You might think your subscriptions add up to around $30. The data might show $80. These tools don't judge, they just show. And seeing clearly is the precondition for changing. Waite recommends finding one that matches your style and committing to it for at least 3 months before evaluating whether it's working for you. The first month is usually surprise and adjustment. By the third, you're starting to actually change behavior. Investment and savings platforms. The digital age has democratized access to investing in remarkable ways. Fractional shares, owning a tiny piece of an expensive stock for as little as $5, automated investing apps that round up your purchases to the nearest dollar and invest the change, commission-free trading platforms that removed the barrier of broker fees. These tools are genuinely powerful, especially for beginners. Waite recommends approaching them with clear goals, staying diversified, and resisting the urge to check your portfolio obsessively. Daily fluctuations are noise. Long-term trends are signal. She also sounds a clear warning about social media investing hype, stocks, cryptocurrencies, or other assets that go viral on platforms like Reddit or TikTok, promising quick, massive returns. Some people make money on these. Many people lose it. The ones who made money often got lucky on timing. The mechanics underlying the hype are often speculative rather than fundamental. She's not saying avoid anything volatile. She's saying understand what you're doing before you do it, and never invest more than you can genuinely afford to lose in anything speculative. Digital security. This is where Waite gets very serious, and rightfully so. Financial fraud targeting young adults is sophisticated, common, and growing. Phishing scams, fake emails that look exactly like messages from your bank, investment platform, or the IRS, are designed to get you to click a link and enter your credentials. Smishing, the same scam via text message. Vishing, via phone call. Fake investment platforms that look professional and real. Crypto scams promising guaranteed returns. Romance scams, where someone builds a relationship with the specific intention of eventually asking for money.
These scams work because they're good. They're professionally designed. They understand human psychology, urgency, fear, trust, social pressure, and they exploit it. Waite's protective rules: never click a link in an unsolicited email or text. Go directly to the website yourself by typing the address. Never give your password, PIN, or verification codes to anyone, including someone claiming to be from customer service. Legitimate institutions never ask for this. Enable two-factor authentication on every financial account. This means even if someone gets your password, they can't access your account without a second verification step. Use unique, strong passwords for each financial account. A password manager makes this realistic. Check your credit reports regularly for unfamiliar accounts, a sign of identity theft. Be skeptical of any investment opportunity that promises guaranteed returns, especially in cryptocurrency. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Your digital financial security is not paranoia, it's basic hygiene, as necessary as locking your front door.
Your financial needs will change. Your habits should keep pace. Financial planning isn't a single event. It's an ongoing practice that adapts with you as your life changes. Waite walks through the major financial milestones most young adults navigate and how to approach each with intention. Moving out for the first time. The rent is just the beginning. People often underestimate the full cost of independent living: utilities, renter's insurance, groceries, household supplies, laundry, transportation, internet. Before you move, create a complete monthly expense estimate, not just rent, everything. Add a 10 to 15% buffer for the things you forgot, then make sure your income actually covers it. If it doesn't yet, make a plan for how to close that gap before you commit to a lease. Student loans and education debt. Understand what you have. Don't just make the minimum payment without knowing your interest rate, your repayment timeline, and your options. Income-driven repayment plans exist. Refinancing can sometimes lower your rate. Loan forgiveness programs exist in certain professions and countries. The loan you ignore is the loan that grows. Landing your first real job. Beyond the salary, your total compensation includes benefits, and benefits are worth real money. Health insurance, retirement matching, flexible spending accounts, paid time off, professional development stipends. Understand all of it. Ask questions during onboarding. Don't leave value uncaptured simply because the paperwork was confusing. Buying a car. A car is almost never an investment. It depreciates immediately and continuously. It's a tool, and tools have costs. When evaluating a car purchase, look at the total cost: purchase price, insurance, fuel, maintenance, and any financing costs. Buying used, especially 2 or 3 years old, usually offers significant savings over new, with relatively little sacrifice in reliability. If financing, understand the interest rate and total amount paid over the loan term. Sometimes what sounds like a manageable monthly payment is masking a very expensive loan. Building toward homeownership. Buying a home is one of the most significant financial decisions most people make. Waite doesn't say rush toward it or avoid it. She says understand it. A home isn't automatically a good investment. It can be, in the right market, at the right price, held for long enough, but it comes with costs people underestimate: closing costs, property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and the reality that your down payment is your capital, tied up in an illiquid asset. If homeownership is a goal, prepare early. Build credit. Save for a down payment. Understand mortgage terms. Don't let social pressure rush a decision that deserves careful analysis. Navigating money in relationships. Whether it's a long-term partner, a spouse, or even close friends you share expenses with, financial dynamics in relationships deserve explicit conversation. What are each person's financial habits, goals, debts, income? How will shared costs be handled? What does financial fairness look like to each of you? These conversations can feel awkward. Have them anyway.
The discomfort of one honest conversation is far preferable to the resentment and conflict that builds when financial expectations are misaligned and unspoken.
We've covered a lot of ground, and at this point you might be thinking, this all makes sense, but where do I actually start? Waite addresses this directly. She knows that information overload is real, that people who try to do everything at once end up doing nothing. So she builds a sequenced action plan, a priority order for getting your financial house in order. Step 1. Know your numbers. Before any strategy, you need a clear picture. What do you earn each month? What do you spend? What do you owe? What do you have saved? Write it down. Or put it in a spreadsheet, or use an app. However works for you, but know the numbers. Clearly, all of them. Step 2. Build a minimal emergency fund. Even if you have debt, even before investing, start with $1,000 in a savings account as a buffer. This prevents one bad month from derailing everything else. Then expand it over time toward 3 to 6 months of expenses. Step 3. Tackle high-interest debt. Credit card debt at 20% APR and above is financial quicksand. Every month you carry it, it gets harder to get out. Attack it with urgency, using whichever payoff strategy keeps you motivated. Step 4. Automate savings. Set up the automatic transfer, whatever percentage is sustainable right now. Build the habit, then raise the rate. Step 5. Capture any employer retirement match. Free money, full stop. Step 6. Open and contribute to a tax-advantaged account. Roth IRA, ISA, TFSA, whatever is available to you. Max it if you can. Get as close as you can if you can't. Step 7. Invest additional savings. Index funds, consistent contributions, long time horizon. Let it grow. Step 8. Revisit and adjust regularly. Every year, check in with your financial plan. Has your income changed, your expenses, your goals? Adjust your allocations, your savings rate, your investments accordingly. Your financial plan is a living document. This sequence is not about perfection, it's about priority. It's about doing the right things in the right order rather than trying to do everything simultaneously and abandoning it when it becomes overwhelming. We've spent about an hour together walking through Money Skills for Young Adults in a Digital Age by Roshel Waite. We've covered the financial literacy gap, the psychology of digital spending, budgeting frameworks, earning and growing income, the power of compound interest, credit scores, debt strategies, investing fundamentals, taxes, emotional wellness around money, digital security, life milestones, and a step-by-step action plan. That's a lot. And if you try to remember all of it simultaneously, you'll feel overwhelmed. So let's bring it back to the essential core. The entire book rests on one foundational belief, that your financial future is not something that happens to you, it's something you participate in, actively, intentionally, over time. Most people don't feel that way about money. They feel like money is complicated and intimidating and somehow outside their control. They feel like financial security is for people who were born knowing this stuff, or who got lucky, or who make a lot more than them. But Waite's argument, backed by every strategy in this book, is that financial security is built through decisions made consistently over time. Not one big break, not perfect circumstances, not a massive income. Decisions, consistent ones, over time. The decision to track your spending, even for 1 week. The decision to wait 24 hours before clicking buy. The decision to set up a $10 automatic transfer into savings today. The decision to read your credit card statement and understand what you owe. The decision to contribute to your retirement account, even by 1%. Each of these decisions made consistently compounds, just like interest. You don't feel the result immediately, but over months and years, the accumulation becomes visible, undeniable, real.
Here's the closing thought that stays with me from this book. The financial world is not designed to help you save. It's designed to help you spend. The apps are optimized to make spending easier. The marketing is designed to make you feel like you need more. The credit system can pull you toward debt if you're not aware of how it works. But you can design your own system, one that works for your goals, reflects your values, builds your future, and still allows you to enjoy your present. One that brings calm where there's been anxiety, intention where there's been impulse, and direction where there has been drift. That's what financial literacy makes possible. Not just bigger numbers, though those come too. A different relationship with money. One where you're in charge. And the best time to start building that relationship? Right now. Not next month, not when things settle down, not after the next paycheck. Now, with whatever you've got, wherever you are. Your financial story is being written. Today is a page. Make it a good one. Thank you for listening.